Good afternoon and welcome to the 30th episode of Overdose and Chill. We are here today with Alicia from 11 Honoré. We're lucky to have you here, so welcome, Alicia.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew.
And for the folks, if you would kindly pronounce your last name for me.
Radabaugh.
Radabaugh. I always like meeting folks who have spent their lives having to spell their last name every time they say it, so
yeah.
Kindred spirit.
I have 6 A's in my name, and apparently it means clear stream in German. So
interesting. Okay. I've never dug into what my name means, and I'm scared to find out, so we won't go there. But welcome to the broadcast. For any folks tuning in and watching, by all means, please, questions, comments, drop them in, and when the moment is right, I will bring those questions up, and we'll pick Alicia's brain to find out her thoughts on those things. So first off, would love to learn a bit more about you. You know, unlike other broadcasts that I've been part of here at Overdose, this is the first one where I've literally never met the person live or had a conversation over video with them. So this is going to be pretty fun for me. Yeah. So you know, what's your story, Alicia?
Man, I feel like it's taken a few turns. I guess like broader background. So I am from Pennsylvania, grew up on the East Coast. Really, you know, was kind of a straight path through school. Was actually in biomedical engineering school for a few years, and obviously diverted from that. But yeah, I kind of stumbled into ecom. So around 2010, I think it was, I was kind of randomly in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio at the time, and met the founder of JackThreads just through, I was working a bar job and had obviously finished school by that point and had a few other random jobs. Met him and just pretty much, you know, decided that I would take any job there to just get started.
And you were still East Coast then?
Yeah, I was at that point, I'd primarily been in Pennsylvania. I went to Pitt, lived in North Carolina, moved to Ohio.
I've got a lot of family in Pennsylvania. My mom's whole side is Philly. She went to Cheltenham High. That's a thing, right? Cheltenham High in sort of the Elkins part of the area outside Philly. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm from Central PA. It's the part, I mean, it's Harrisburg, which is the capital, and everyone thinks the capital is Scranton. Even not like now, I think after The Office, even above Philly, which was the popular choice, and everyone thinks it's Scranton. But yeah, from Harrisburg, people aren't too familiar with it, but it was fun, like being in the tri-state area and growing up, you know, being able to drive to the beach, you know, within reason in high school and stuff. So yeah.
Cool. And, you know, I did a little bit of LinkedIn stalking earlier today, and you know, certainly JackThreads, movement, 11 Honoré, a brand 13 Lune, which is not on your LinkedIn yet, and then City Shoppe. And I noticed you were in merchandising, you were in operations, you were in marketing. You really played a lot of roles in these companies historically, and I'm sort of curious what that evolution was and sort of where you are now, and frankly, what your role is now across these companies, because you're involved in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, good question. So, yeah, I mean, because I didn't really have, you know, retail background really. I mean, I worked a few jobs. I think I worked at the Gap for one holiday season, you know, in the store. But I had worked at insurance, and I was an operations manager for a painting company. And I had opened up new bars and restaurants. So I think, you know, I just generally knew that I was good at organizing things and, like, you know, wanted to work for a company that I saw going in a different, like, newer direction. So that's why I was so gung-ho on JackThreads in the beginning. I mean, it was super exciting. We were a really young, small, scrappy team. And yeah, I started there. So one of the first positions he had open was, well, I think he had a visual merchandiser, which was just building products in their, like, QuickBooks basically, and then working with the one dev that they had to kind of get it live on the site. But I took the accounts payable job, or like their internal, like their in-house accounting job, with no accounting experience. So it was fun though. I mean, I worked with their bookkeeper. I think I'm the only person there, or maybe in most of ecom, that she had me kind of take an IQ test and onboard through her, kind of onboarding system. And it ended up being really operational. So I worked, with Jason, the founder, who was working with all the brands. I worked the customer service team. I worked with the warehouse. I worked with a tech guy, because we really had to start understanding like how to reconcile these invoices, how to manage them from a vendor term standpoint, and then how to monitor everything that was flowing through. So I think that helped really kind of start building some process in the back end, at least for JackThreads. And that was around the time that they were talking to Thrillist Media Group, and were acquired soon after. And then everything kind of changed. So, I think we were, again, I think when we were acquired, we were about 9 people internally there, still in like this really small office in Columbus, Ohio. And it's funny because I remember I would be reconciling invoices, and the in-house graphic designer that we had faced the same windows that I did. And every day at 3:00, the sun would just like come in. So we would be wearing sunglasses, doing like some
of the coolest accountant of all time.
No, like we couldn't see. So, I mean, he's like, he's doing the graphic design. I'm reconciling invoices to figure out what we're paying, or wearing sunglasses, looking at our computer screen. So that's kind of, where things started. But, it quickly evolved. And then I just kept finding new niches within the company to go into. So went from accounting, we had a CFO. So I trained up the new accounting or accounts payable managers, and then moved on to fulfillment, then moved on to general operations and customer experience, then moved on to, at that time, there was a real need for like internal, like inter-team processes. So had to, get everyone around launching 80 products a day. So it was kind of merchandising operations. And then when JackThreads flipped to a more vertical brand, it became more of this like programming, but that was, it was really just what's the go-to-market strategy, leading the teams along the way through like all these milestone planning meetings. And then, what are we doing? Like, what's the end execution for the consumer?
Wow.
So
it really sounds like it was a pretty fast trajectory through JackThreads, and sort of a whirlwind of every department and discipline that you could sort of wrap your head around and get experience in. And fast forward to Movement, and you were at Movement at a time where that site was sort of held up across the e-commerce space as just a very cool brand, a very cool website, some very cool functionality. I know some of our tech partners for a while, that was you had implemented some social shopping, where it was Instagram feed on site, shoppable Instagram feed on site, which was, I think you're one of the first big brands to really roll that out. So I'm curious, can you talk a little bit about your experience at that brand and sort of what it was like there, and what you guys were doing there that was so cool and successful?
Yeah, I think so Movement, I think I joined when we were about already at 25 million, like around 25 million. And Jake, the co-founder, Kassan, had been running the site. Like, he was running the site, he was running marketing. He actually did an awesome job, I think, working really closely with Shopify, the Yapos, the BVA. We were with BVA at the time, and just really kind of getting in the ground floor with, building what was going to be the base of the ecosystem that they were built on. But yeah, I think, some things were already in place, but that was when I think they still only had like one collection. I think I started and we started, rolling out new product lines. So, I think, my main focus there was, really partnering closely with Shopify Plus. I got to work with them really closely and go up to Waterloo a few times. That was awesome to kind of see how that platform evolved.
They're a pretty cool company.
They're okay.
They're doing all right.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, why didn't I buy stock whenever I started Movement? That was really dumb. But so, yeah, it was more, I think, focused for me on the tech stack, the partner ecosystem, really bringing to life everything the marketing team there wanted to do, because the marketing team was half of the employees. Like we were pretty, I think that's how, they really from the beginning and then through the time I was there, like really pushed the envelope. They just had all of these crazy ideas, but knew, kind of saw things that other people might not have seen in other businesses because they were so bogged down with just doing the same thing or, too busy to see it. So it was just more like, okay, well, how do we actually execute this and communicate to the customer? So
were there any scenarios where, and we see this a lot and have seen it, and merchants are certainly getting a bit more flexible in this respect, but doing something new on the website, when you think about sort of luxury brands historically not wanting to engage the ratings and reviews or pay over time options. And I feel like the movement did go down a couple of roads there that other brands of a similar ilk might not have. So sort of how did you guys get that through? And what, were there fears that you would do it and it would sort of backfire because it would sort of paint the brand in a light that maybe you guys weren't looking for?
Yeah, I think it was all about the brand, and I think that's why we one of the mottos, and I don't know, it's not the greatest, but, we like to move fast and break things. That's not great, from a technical perspective, but we learned quickly. Like we talked to people all the time. I think, because of the status of the brand at that time, we got, kind of into betas when it made sense, and we're able to test and learn and see if things worked. If they didn't, we were able to kind of get out of it, but most of it stuck, and everyone, for the most part, was a really good partner, and it, helped make everything work together.
It's funny you say that. I mean, the strength of the ecosystem, whether they're tech partners or just folks in it, it is so powerful. And I was sort of shout from the mountaintops the importance of those alignments. And, one of the things I actually learned from Albert, who you work with on our end, is sort of where our engagement with you guys at 11 Honoré sort of started. I didn't realize that you had met him years ago in a different lifetime, a different brand on both sides. And then sort of came back together again last year, just when you saw on LinkedIn that he had joined Overdose, and you guys reconnected, and you had some projects that you needed some work with. So I'm curious, as you travel through your career here across brands, do you assess what the brand needs first? Well, I guess you certainly do that, but do you sort of maintain those same tech partnerships throughout? Go, you know what, had a great experience with Klarna here. They're a great tech to bring in this project. So what's your thought process around when you join a brand? I know I'm asking a long-winded question. When you join a brand or consult with a brand, where do you start, and what's your sort of thought process to evolve that and get it where you feel it needs to be?
I feel like it just takes, I had some ideas going into 11 Honoré, just as an example, and what they might need, and the team had opinions about what they needed. But it honestly took 6 months to be like, okay, this is what we actually need. You might need, if you say you need better inventory management, we actually need a better, just back end tools and things, to kind of help with marketing. It's kind of, there's things that can be worked out with better internal communication and process and all of that stuff. And then when it comes to what's actually going to help the company grow, that's where I think these, those strategic partnerships make a lot of sense. And, I think the value of working with Overdose and working with Klarna again for 11 Honoré, 13 Lune is really, I see it as a fractional support. I've always viewed, agency as actually an extension of the team. And it works really well when you think about it that way. You make each other better. And that's how I think about these partnerships too. And I would never kind of bring a new solution on or suggest anything that didn't make sense. But, for 11 Honoré, Afterpay wasn't really working strategically as a partner anymore. So, as that example, I was like, okay, well, Michael over at Klarna, and it's going really well.
Cool. Yeah, glad to hear it. And I think Yeah, I'm on board with everything you say, and certainly, in a merchant agency relationship, you either both succeed or you both fail,
Mm-hmm.
and it has to truly be, a partnership in growth. And we have this sort of mantra internally that what's best for the client is what's best for Overdose. There's no scenario where we would, not look out for the best interest of the client, because if they're not succeeding, then we simply can't succeed. So it's great to hear that you. And I know you have that collaborative mindset with the Overdose team and Albert. Question in from the crew here. Speaking of 11 Honoré, and I'd love to get deeper into this, but I guess at a high level, can you tell us a little bit about 11 Honoré? It is in a very, I think, a very current, a very important sort of area of e-commerce and just retail.
Mm-hmm.
And also, can you tell us a bit about the background there and what it's all about?
Sure. Yeah. So Patrick founded 11 Honoré about 5 years ago. It might be going on 6. And it was really just a new idea. I mean, the space existed, but no one was really catering to the plus size customer in a luxury market. Especially not the designers that we have carried and continue to carry. So, I think it was just a really good idea. And he is an entrepreneur at heart. He's a connector at heart. So he really, got the idea launched, made it happen, built up a ton of momentum in press. They had a massive runway show at New York Fashion Week in 2019. I think it really, I do think, it's funny because it keeps coming up in all of the work that I'm doing for the last few years, talking about things being a movement, right? Like, movement there was a lot of things, especially at the end, that we did to start kind of, focusing on entrepreneurship, on reaching out to, people. Kind of, we built this other ecosystem of influencers and partners and content creators that now have, their own kind of brands around them. I think 11 Honoré, it's also a movement of sorts, but it was more of a shift in, kind of the perception of plus. And there's so much psychology behind it. We talk about it all the time. How do we really resonate with the consumer and build community and, kind of make her feel like she, wants to keep coming back and own all these gorgeous things. So
it feels like you've been involved, and we'll get into 13 Lune in a bit, but you're involved a lot of brands that are all inclusive, that are for everyone, that are not the movement. You don't need a Patek Philippe or an Abel watch to be cool and to be stylish. You can have an affordable watch that is a very cool brand name if you build that brand up properly. And you think back to sort of plus size in culture, it's obviously a huge thing, and it's very controversial and problematic. But you think about sort of Dove trying to do the plus size ad campaign, which was well received culturally, but did not have longevity, right? Think about things that were historically, like the Sports Illustrated, that then added plus size models to their catalog. So it's really offhand thing. I went shopping a few weeks ago, and I'm not the target demo for 11 Honoré, but and I went to go find my 34 waist pants, and then I got them, and they were way too big. So then I get the 32-inch pants, but they're not 32. Like they build them as 32, but they're clearly not, because 32 is too small. Sizing. Whether it's mirrors in dressing rooms or sort of giving a bit of extra room in what is ostensibly a 32-inch waist, it's a thing, and it's I don't know. It's cool that you guys are playing in a space where you're making it and bringing in designers and brand names that are saying, hey, you know what? Everyone should have access to our products, not just to our size 2, size 4, whatever.
Yeah, and I think that's, I kind of fell into some things and got really lucky along the way, to be totally honest. But I think, I don't just, in terms of my lifestyle, I don't want to do anything that feels yucky when it comes to, supporting and growing a business that doesn't think like that. So, working with Patrick at 11 Honoré and 13 Lune has been awesome, because that's really what he's all about. It's just, it's inclusivity. Even though he's not a plus size woman, and I'm not, but we care about that. We care about bringing the product to market to, to that demographic so that they feel good about themselves. And, 13 Lune is the same way. And I think it's going to be, we're thinking through ways now of like how to make, again, like that community. And most of the time it has been kind of a second thought, or, just something that feels injected for brands that didn't start there, right? Like you were saying with Dove and with Sports Illustrated, it's like, okay, this is the moment for Plus.
Yep.
And it's more about just, broadening everyone's thinking and horizons and say like, no, these, like, everyone exists in every shape and form and size and color all of the time. It's just not what you see.
Yep.
It's not what you see in branding and the media. So it's cool to work with brands that highlight that.
Cool. Which I guess brings us, it's a good segue here, and I'll bring this up. The question is, and I want to get to 13 Lune, because 13 Lune, as I understand it, was a new brand that launched during COVID. Is pure play, at least at this point, I think it's just straight website e-com.
Yeah.
So the question here from Arthur is, how is your 2020 year of lockdowns and limitations? What lessons did you learn? Were there any massive discoveries and improvements made to go through tough times?
Oh man.
Yeah, big one.
That's a big one. Yeah, I think 2020 was interesting for me personally, because I left movement, took 2 months off, was trying to figure out what was next. And really it was just, who do I want to work for next? What type of, again, like, do I go to the other extreme of, nonprofit or whatever? But I do love ecom, and kind of naturally, again, like got connected and have now had these projects. So it's been really fun. And I think working across multiple brands is good and like healthier for me. Because I think in terms of, discoveries, like massive discoveries, I don't know if this is more business related or personal, but massive discovery for myself is that I like bridging across more things. And, working and being more of that connector within the teams and with like the outside ecosystem and things like that. So I feel, really, really content with what I'm doing now, which is great. In terms of the business side of 2020, it has been just a complete shakeup. So, especially with 11 Honoré specifically, they were an event, really event-based business. I mean, 60% of the sales were dresses and, very high-end luxury. I mean, we're talking about like up to $5,000 dresses that people would buy for events, galas, all of that fun stuff that didn't happen this year or last year. So that completely changed the business, but it really, I think, helped us look at everything with a microscope too. And it really changed it for the better over time. So that's what we've been doing the last 6 months. And we have a lot of new things rolling out in 2021. So I feel like it was almost like this just reimagining of everything, which has been, it was tough, but it's really healthy in the long run. And then, 13 Lune kind of exists because of COVID. And, I think just Patrick working with Nikeo, the co-founder at 13 Lune, and saying like, okay, let's just get everybody that we know on board and do it again, So
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, it's tough starting a business on Zoom, but it happened. So
it's we were always an office-bound agency, and like everyone else, March 16th rolled around, and we've been, for the most part, remote. A couple of our offices are able to go back, Australia, New Zealand, but otherwise we're all working from home. So there's another brand I think on the horizon. I don't know if you can share what that other brand is.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been working also with City Shoppe. So, really talking about kind of that just extreme passion of where I see retail going. I still think there's so many barriers to break, like we've been talking about with 11 Honoré, 13 Lune, making sure there is more inclusivity, but that also extends to businesses. And that's really the concept behind City Shoppe. So I met Ash, the founder, through LinkedIn in July. And, we've been getting things kind of off the ground. She kind of had a small team, and we've been reworking things again, like the last few months. So the whole concept is, bringing local small businesses into a broader market. So it's obviously relevant with COVID, the lockdowns, store closings, and she's in Portland right now. So the proof of concept was to build out of Portland and go from there. So, there's still a ton of work to do, but it's such an awesome concept because there's so many businesses that if they don't get at the right time, or have the marketing dollars to put behind acquisition, or even, the knowledge or the connections to build a storefront, or the money to build a storefront, an e-com site, they don't really have anywhere to go. There's obviously Amazon. There's obviously, Etsy. They're slightly different markets. And so this is really just to spotlight cities and the best local shopping in the city. I would say we're still in like super beta mode, but it's exciting.
Cool. You said a couple of things that I'd like to dig in on if you're willing to. One is you're sort of contemplating where retail is going. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on where you feel retail is going.
Yeah, I don't know. I struggle with this one because I can see it going. It's kind of just like everything else right now, so polarized. Like there's people that, love Amazon and will shop on it all of the time because it's so convenient and they have such a large catalog. But then there's, I think, a growing base of people that really don't want to see the uniqueness of their cities or their street go away. So they're really, I think, rethinking where they're spending their dollar. I think it's going to take a few years to really see how that evolves. I hope that we're not this kind of monoculture in 10 years, all wearing the same thing and having the same furniture in our houses and things like that, or 20 years from now. So it's got to like stabilize a little bit and hopefully swing a little bit back in the other direction of, smaller's better, quality better.
As you look at sort of the evolution of the Our Story or the About Us page on a website, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, buried in the footer, if at all, right? Mm-hmm. Then it became more prominent in the footer, and now, it's 2021 now. Gosh, it's the first time I've said that. And people care about the brands they engage with. They want to know that the brands that they engage with, have shared values, that have a conscience, and that they're actual people, behind the brand, and it's not just some faceless, nameless brand that has a logo. So, I agree with you 100%. That's super important, sort of the brand values and what they represent to the shopper. The other thing you said was that you got a lot of things in the works, a lot of things in the pipeline for some of the brands you work with. Anything that you're willing to share that you guys are working on?
So I think, we actually, at 11 Honoré, so there's, I'm trying to figure out what to choose here. So 11 Honoré, like again, 2020 was such an eye-opening year. And we know that things are going to come back eventually. There's going to be, the need for designer and all of these couture like pieces and, things again, I don't know, like over time, like how that's going to really maintain, depends on the state of the world. But, I think we've been able to pivot, thankfully, very quickly because we already had a private label prod dev pipeline. So we have a few things coming out. We're expanding private label and talking about some strategic wholesale partnerships and things like that. So really, it's just how do we take this and really own size and fit and expand from there. So that's really fun. Like we're talking to the team about how we communicate that, how we can translate that on the site, working with the Overdose team. So I'm excited to kind of get that through. 13 Lune, I mean, it's still a baby site. So, I mean, it's crazy how much traction and press we've gotten, all the Vanguard love, the, love from, just everyone in that industry. It's been awesome. So, but we're going through the same thing, like, really strategically planning what we focus on this year in 2021, so that we don't, so that we remain true to our core brand values, but, kind of layer on and make it a more interactive experience in terms of buying beauty online. So
interesting. So thanks for sharing that. That's really great. And as you talk about, you've mentioned this a couple of times, the sort of experience, the customer experience, the user experience, and the importance of that. I had a dentist appointment this morning, and I've yet to meet someone who is ever excited about going for a cleaning. I'm sure those people exist. I'm not one of them. And the dentist I go to has this new office, big, beautiful new office. And I walked in, and when I went down for the cleaning, he's got these 50-inch TVs on the ceiling. Yeah. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. So I sat there and laid there and watched the Great British Baking Show on Netflix. And an hour went by, and like I barely noticed. So it was such a cool thing to bring to that experience, where actually I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it like I used to hate it. So when thinking through what that customer experience is, when you think about brands that were traditionally multi-channel, that may still have stores closed or had to close some stores, but had a different customer base for in-store versus online because of the personalized service, because of the relationship with the salesperson, how are you seeing bringing those offline customers online and delivering as best you can online that in-store customer experience? So what are, and Albert actually dropped in a question. I think this sort of relates to what I'm asking is, you have your back-end techs and you have your front-end techs. You have your sales techs, your payment gateways that are sort of for the business. Then you have your front-end techs and experiences that come into play and really lift conversions and drive engagement there. So if you talk a little bit about user experience, customer experience, and sort of any of the techs that you guys are looking to leverage or are leveraging to help improve those.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, one that Albert and I are actually working on now is, a CDP for that reason. So we've, I think it's hyper relevant for 11 Honoré, and it will be eventually for, a company like City Shoppe, where you build a loyal customer base, but you need to be able to service them a little bit differently. And in 11 Honoré, it's interesting because the offline used to be more of the, the personal stylist, client services, and that team that would have pop-up events, in-store events, try on at home, like kind of events at their clients' houses even. So, I've been working really closely with Katie that runs client services at 11 Honoré, just to, to try to figure out how we can improve the storefront. It's tricky because I think a lot of the solutions that there's a lot of technology for fit that's coming, but it's not quite there yet. Like, it's still a little bit cheesy. And you have to have everything really, really buttoned up in terms of your measurements and your production remaining consistent and everything like that. But it's definitely something we're thinking about. I think but again, like going back to the CDP, that is going to be the quickest win, because I think that people are just tired of marketing. Like it can be a turnoff, but it's almost, it's kind of, everything's becoming a little bit of banner blindness. Like, you might hit them with a Facebook ad, an Instagram ad, or they'll see you organically, and they get an email, and it's always, it's good as a reminder, but they're not truly engaging. It's more of just like a notification, because they're getting so many other things from all over the place. So I don't know, like, I'm really excited to dig in with Albert and with the team and really think about like how we kind of rework all of that so we have smarter, more engaging touch points. It's kind of like, the salesperson in the store wouldn't be like, hey, can I help you? And then like on the other side, like come at you again and again and again and again.
So when does brand awareness become a nuisance, right? What's the tipping point where people start getting turned off by it instead of just ignoring it? I always had this battle talking about pop-ups and email capture. And I personally, again, I'm shopping for my own pockets here.
Mm-hmm.
My feeling is when you hit a site and you're hit with a pop-up immediately, it's the equivalent of walking into a store and someone going, hey, what's your name? What do you want?
Yeah.
Versus give them 10 seconds, give them an internal page where it's like, hey, clearly you're engaged, you're looking around, anything I can help you with. Hey, if you're interested, give us your email, we'll give you some updates. So, that whole sort of give and take of like, what is effective marketing versus just, insensitive marketing, as I would call it. And when you say CDP, just for anyone who doesn't know, that's customer data platform, if I'm not mistaken. Anything else out there in the tech space that you're excited about? I know you guys are working with Klarna, as you noted. I think Gorgeous is your customer service platform that you're engaged with.
Gorgeous, yeah. So I think, I love Yapo. I'm really curious to see what they're going to be working on. We'll be re-engaging with them soon on like the loyalty and messaging side of things, right? Like they have some really good ideas to tie that user journey together a little bit more. But I think layering a CDP or whatever they're calling it, like there's so many different names for those now, on top of it makes it really effective, throughout all of your channels. Gorgeous is awesome. I think it gives a lot of new insights and tools to the customer experience team that they couldn't have found before. I think, Klarna and the whole pay later industry is, it's here. It's becoming a bigger, part of business. I don't know. There's so many payment options, but I think it allows people to just not think about it and budget over time. So it's fun. For people to shop using it, I think.
Yeah, I absolutely. Especially in an era when with COVID and with folks having employment issues and money issues, certainly offering a pay overtime option for folks, certainly during the holidays, but it was a huge thing for merchants. Yeah. It sort of brings us to we're sort of hitting the end here. I'm in this conversation. I'm sort of thinking in the back of my head, like, you are to e-commerce what Ryan Seacrest is to Hollywood. Like, if he's the busiest man in show business, you are like the busiest woman in e-commerce. So how do you do all this and still maintain a work-life balance?
It's difficult, and I think I was actually thinking about this last week because I took a week off the week between kind of took it off between New Year's and Christmas because it's a downtime and less people were kind of really engaged, at least in email. So you have to like find time to do that, even though I feel like it takes a few days to decompress, and then you need a few more days on top of that. So it's more about what your everyday looks like and making sure that there are some clear kind of boundaries. It's really hard in the startup world. When I started, I think I was probably working, 9 to 9 or 9 to 10 pretty regularly, and it's just not sustainable. So, there's days that I do it now, but it's kind of offset by other days that I go to the pottery studio. Thankfully, I can still go do that here, or in California, go for a walk, during the middle of the day. So it's just little kind of sanity points and like leaving my phone somewhere, not having something in my face in terms of notifications or emails or calls or texts. So I think it's hard to kind of manage sometimes, and people expect you to kind of be on all the time, but it's not doable. And what I found is, I work my best when I have like just an even kind of keel state of mind. I'm not going to be good or make great decisions if I'm frazzled. So it's not good for anybody.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for sharing that. Any other things that are on your mind? I think one more question before we sort of wrap up. What are you most excited about this year in the digital space, in e-commerce, and just the world in which we live?
I think I'm just excited. I hope this kind of back to basics, and the human side of business remains. Yeah. That's really it. I think, the events of the last year put a lot of things into perspective for a lot of people. And at the end of the day, we're not saving lives, but we do make people's lives a little bit happier. And it's just remembering that. But, still finding joy in what we're doing every day because it's fun.
Cool. Yeah. I don't think I ever thought I would say I can't wait to go back to Vegas at some point. I never thought that would cross my mind, but now with everything, I can't wait to go to a conference again and see everyone, face to face.
Yeah, the face to face will be exciting. I'm kind of I'm more of a lean introvert, I would say, but I've realized through this whole last year that I just miss people.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, very cool. Really appreciate you jumping on. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. I'm looking forward to working with you more with the other projects you got going on. And stay safe, stay healthy, have a great year, and hope to chat soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew.
All right, take care, Alicia.
Bye.